I am so excited to bring you today's video because Tesla just released a brand new car. Of course, I'm talking about the Tesla Model YL, or the extended wheelbase Model Y. This 3-row dedicated 6-passenger Model Y comes in a bigger package with some exclusive options that you can't get in the regular old Tesla Model Y. Tesla Model Y, of course, is the best-selling car in the entire world, regardless of powertrain type, whether it's gas, diesel, whatever. And this is just going to make that an even better option, giving even more customers access to a Model Y. This is basically a no-brainer that it was coming. This originally launched in Asia, expanded to the European market, and with the end of the Model S and Model X, it was a pretty much guarantee that something was coming and it was likely to be this vehicle. We finally have it here in the United States for order, and this launch series version of it comes with basically everything in it. But because of some changes recently, there are some things missing, some things that are exclusive, some things that make it better or worse than the original Model Y. So make sure you stick around to the end. There's a lot to unpack here. Let's dive in right now. Now, before we jump in, I have one favor to ask. We are so close to 100,000 subscribers. I can't believe we've made it as far as we have to this point, but I need your help to get that last little stretch. We need about 3,000 subscribers, and then we'll hit the big number. I couldn't have done it without all of you, and I thank you so much. With that, let's dive in. So here we are over at Tesla's website, introducing Model Y Premium. This is now available 3 rows, 6 seats, and this is a big deal. So of course we have the standard, the premium, the performance, and now the Model YL, which is a long wheelbase version. Comes in a special color, which we'll get into shortly, but 325 miles of range, 6 seats, and charge in 15 minutes, 164 miles of rated range. That is 5 miles less than the regular Model Y. And we'll go into those details later because I have some things that I think point to what is happening here on this car and what battery you should expect in it. But here it is, captain chairs in the second row, which is fantastic. This is an ultimate family vehicle in a small package that still gives you enough room that a regular family would be able to utilize this vehicle and have the space that they need. Also, these rear seats fold flat, as you can see. And on the inside, this 6 passengers, it also has, of course, the screen that we already have in our other vehicle. And then in the front, it's the same experience as what you have now. One of the greatest things about the Model Y Juniper refresh was the suspension. And that, of course, has been carried over. That adaptive suspension is butter. It is fantastic, so smooth, so quiet. This all in just a little bit bigger of a package, which doesn't really change the look all that much, minus the wheels, but you can see it right here, kind of that bubbled end. Basically from here forward is the same, and then they just pushed it back a little bit and give you a nice, more headroom really in the back as well. That is, of course, loaded with all the same efficiencies that they added in the refresh Model Y, plus some new ones. Plus the wheels have to be pretty efficient because the range doesn't make sense to me, but let's just go over to the order page and I'll show you what I mean. So here we are, the new option right there, 325 miles of rated range, 4.4 0 to 60, which is 0.2 seconds faster than the premium all-wheel drive, having 2 less rated miles on the standard wheels. That's interesting because this is quite a bit heavier than the other model. Perhaps they were able to just sneak by with the efficiencies gained, but we'll go into that again here later. It does come standard with 12 months of FSD, which is different than the previous launch series, which came with FSD permanently. Of course, full self-driving is no longer available for permanent purchase, which ended at $8,000. So that $8,000 is not available to purchase, but it does come with Cosmic Silver, which is a new color here. This color is exclusive for the Model YL. It is not available in the other trims, but it does sit at that Quicksilver spot instead. More of a yellowish or brownish hue than the bluish hue that you get in Quicksilver. Comes standard with these 19-inch wheels with an estimated range of 325 miles, but when you upgrade to the 20s, you only lose 5 miles of estimated range, which is really interesting. So that is very different than the other models in the Model Y. You lose 20, I think it's 21 miles of range or so, going from the 20-inch to the 19s to 20. Let's look. So 327 drops all the way down to 303. So 24 miles of range lost with that upgrade. There's a lot more aerodynamics in these 20s versus the 20s that are offered on the other versions. So probably a lot to do with that. On the interior, this is a big special point to look at. That new Zen Gray interior, which we first saw in the Asian market when it came out. This is amazing. I love this color. It is different than white. It's not as bright, but it's still light. And this will hide stains quite a bit better in dirt and things like that. This is a great color. This is really in that same, I guess, tone of a lot of colors that are very popular right now. This does include ventilated seats. The short wheelbase Model Y does not. So it only has heated seats, and it's, again, just the two. So the middle one's not even heated, but this one has 2 heated and ventilated, plus that third row in the back. This also has heated seats, and you can kind of see it there. There are vents in the back, which is a big deal. In our old Model Y 3-row, this did not have vents, and it was very hot back here because of this glass. So a lot more comfortable, a lot more room, cup holders right here instead of in the middle, which is so much better. And then a couple of USB plugs down here. This is a great setup for this Model Y. It also comes with 12 months of supercharging, which is a really good deal if you're going to be doing any traveling. This can really add a lot of value. Again, if you're going to travel, you could save thousands in a year's time. Also not listed is premium connectivity, which does come standard for a year as well. And I'm not sure why I'm not seeing that anywhere on the order page, but I am fairly certain that it does come standard with that. So the launch series, like in the short wheelbase, it does come with some special badging, some piping on the carpet mats. You have the door trim puddle lights that are different. You have, this is suede instead of a textile. The badging, of course, same. Interior badging right here. This is all like a brushed nickel look, brushed aluminum look. And then this piping on the carpets and the sill plates. It's really not a big deal. It's not a lot of stuff that you're getting. Really, the value is in the options. And we'll go through that in a moment because this is actually a pretty decent deal, I think. And I'll give you an idea of what I think we're going to be looking at once launch series is over. So the Model YL versus the Model Y Premium all-wheel drive is what we're really looking at. At a starting price of $49,990, you're jumping up to $61,990. However, it does come with the paint, which is up to $2,000, wheels, which is $2,000, tow hitch, which is $1,000, interior color, which is $1,000, the third row, which is a $2,500 option in the regular Model Y. So a total of $8,500 in options. That would give you an equivalent price of $58,490 versus the $61,990. And that doesn't include 12 months of full self-driving, which is another $1,188, and 12 months of supercharging, which that value could be thousands. Looking at it that way, we're talking $58,490 for the Model Y. It does not include full self-driving. It does not include supercharging. Range is 320 versus 303 with the 20s, or 325 versus 327 with the standard 19-inch wheels. 0 to 60 at 4.4 instead of 4.6, 164 miles of charge in 15 minutes versus 169, 89 cubic foot versus 76. That is huge. This is a big number for this category of SUV. Small SUVs, this is a lot of cargo space. The length is another area where we've added a lot of space in this vehicle. We're talking an extra 7 inches of length in the vehicle, and the width is exactly the same. The height, however, also goes up. It goes up almost a couple of inches, and that's a big deal because for taller people in the passenger area in the back, this gives you a lot more headspace, including that third row. Ground clearance is basically the same, 1/10 of an inch higher. The weight is another area where we've got some differences, 140-ish pounds of weight difference between the two. So we packed on about 140 pounds, which is not a lot considering how much bigger this vehicle is. So for that $3,500, you get 12 months of full self-driving and supercharging. You get a couple miles less range, or 20-ish miles more range if you get the 20-inch wheels, 0.2 seconds faster 0 to 60 standard, 5 less miles and 15 minutes of charge, 13 cubic feet more of cargo space, which is huge, especially in this category. 1.8 inches taller, and again, that 0.1 inch of ground clearance difference, 7 inches longer, 139 pounds heavier. But you also get power tilt front seats. You get captain chairs with ventilation in that second row, 3-zone climate, so you can control what temperature, what fan speed, all that stuff for all 3 rows. 3 more speakers just because of that third row. It does have power share, which is a big deal, especially if you're in a place like me in Florida where power interruptions can happen because of severe weather. That's a big deal. Now you have whole home backup just sitting in your garage. 6-passenger configuration instead of 7 or 5, so only comes in 6. Cosmic silver paint, exclusive color, Zen gray, exclusive interior color. There's a lot of things that you're getting in the total package of this car over the standard Model Y. So now I want to pivot over to the premium Model Y, the short wheelbase. And when that launch series came out, it was $59,990 compared to $49,990 today. It did come with paint, it did come with wheels, it did come with a tow hitch, it did come with the interior color. It also came with full self-driving, or $12,000 in additional options. So if you were going to option the car out as expensive as possible, include everything that came with launch, then you would be basically $12,000 more. However, that also didn't include things like premium connectivity and a couple of other things that were thrown in as well. So just on options alone, $12,000, that brings you to $61,990, or $2,000 more expensive. So the launch series was actually a discount. It was a deal, $2,000 less than had you optioned it out later. So when we look at the Model Y launch edition, you're basically talking about a $59,990 if we're gonna say it's the same $2,000 premium to have the launch series, or savings of $2,000. So adding that in, but then removing $2,000 of paint, $2,000 in wheels, $1,000 in the tow hitch, $1,000 on the interior, that gives you a net total of $4,000 in options, or an estimated base price of probably $55,990. So that is my guess on what this thing is going to be priced at once the launch series is over. So the base premium, at least the premium all-wheel drive version of this, assuming they don't have any other configurations, it would be $55,990. And then looking at the total Model Y lineup, we're talking $39,990 for the standard rear-wheel drive, $41,990 for the all-wheel drive standard, which is $2,000 more, another $4,000 for the premium rear-wheel drive at $45,990, another $4,000 for the all-wheel drive Model Y Premium, and then going to the performance, $8,000 jump there to $57,990. Now, once we look at the premium all-wheel drive versus this new Model Y L launch series, it's $12,000 jump. And then if we look at that pricing estimate that I think it's going to be $55,990, it's going to be a $6,000 jump from the premium all-wheel drive. We can see some of the more technical details here. That's where we get our weight, and then ground clearance, the dimensions, things like that. But we also get the charging. It's 250 kilowatt charging peak, which is the same as the regular Model Y, but we have more weight, slightly less charge per minute in 15 minutes, same peak rate of charging, and we have a faster 0 to 60. I believe this has a slightly larger battery pack in it. I can't prove that just yet, but as soon as we get our hands on one and we're able to dive deep, we're going to take a look at that, because I think it's slightly larger to get it as close to comparable to the premium Model Y as we have today. So that's it. That's the Model Y L. Fantastic package. Much larger Model Y, giving you actual use of a third row in a small SUV, which is great. It does come at a premium though, and it makes sense. Tesla has done this in the past. A lot of companies do this, where you can only order the car with all the premium options. It's kind of the same thing. This launch series, they did it with Cybertruck. They did it with the refresh Model Y when it came out. And of course, they're doing it here. Front load the heavy demand, get maximum margin out of the first rollout of this thing while you ramp up. Once launch series is over, if it is indeed around that $55,000 range, I think they'll be okay. I don't think they can really push much more than that, because you're starting to approach pricing that is competing with a different class of vehicle altogether. When we look at the Model Y Performance at $58,000, that is a lot of money, but you have a performance vehicle. You'd be hard pressed to find a performance SUV like the Model Y Performance for that kind of money. So it makes sense. This is not a performance vehicle. This is just a little bit larger, 3 rows. It does allow it to compete more appropriately with other 3 rows, but it's still going to be on the small side for that. So pricing, I think, will be okay, as long as this isn't planned to be humongous volume. But that said, I think that there are ways to make this very enticing for people, including if they ever bring back full self-driving transfer, where people can transfer their FSD license to this new vehicle. That would get me on board, certainly. But as it sits right now, we don't have that option, and I have full self-driving and I don't want to lose it. So we're not ordering this, which is a shame, because I've been looking forward to this car coming to the US. This is an amazing family vehicle. You'll have to let me know what your thoughts are. Is this going to be worth the buzz? Is this worth the money? Or is this just not going to cut it when we lost the Model X? This is not as big as the Model X was, and it does not give you the amount of space on the inside that you did have in a 3-row Model X. But it is a really good option for this class of vehicle, which is a step down from the Model X anyways. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments. I thank you so much for joining us today, and I can't wait to catch you on the next one.